This is the first of what will be several videos on how I'm refurbishing this controller. I'm going to try to make it look similar to this, which is the prototype version of this controller for what was then called Ultra 64. Obviously, I don't have access to parts from the prototype, so really my design is going to be inspired by the prototype version. So I bought this on Amazon, and as you can see, the back is okay, but the entire front is defaced. And I was really upset that the seller didn't do anything about it, and you'll see why I was upset during this video. So it also has some other scratches. The keys seem okay. There's a little bit of dust in them, which is to be expected. The bigger issue I have is those 3 scratches around the joystick. So the back is fine, the Z is fine. I tested the controller pack port and it works totally fine as well. So we're gonna see how this cleans up. So first I'm gonna get some precision screwdrivers, and that tub is gonna be my container to put my screws in, because these are tiny screws and they travel a lot. I'm used to working with fine screws and doing fine work because I do horn repair as a side gig. So here I'm using an oversized screwdriver because in my experience, the factory tightens these things really hard. They must use a drill of some kind, which I don't have. So I find using an oversized screwdriver, you know, just one size above it, will help to loosen them, and then you go back in with the right size screwdriver. You can see this was a lot of unscrewing and unscrewing and unscrewing. So what I'm doing is I'm taking those screws and I'm putting them in the tub behind me. Now there's a couple screws where the controller pack reader is, so you're going to want to get those out too. So on the bottom I have my 7, and then I just took out one of the controller pack screws. And then I tackle the other. Now we can see the inside of the controller, and we can see the board, which is essentially the controller. So here, one of the keys fell off. I think this is, yeah, it's the L button. And I have to take them off anyway, so, you know, there's the R. I'm not going to show you every button, but thought I'd show you something. So I'm going to use this tape, and I'm also going to use this felt marker, and I'm going to write on the tape what the screws are for, because it just makes it easier. CP controller pack. And then I just kind of fold it together so that way I know they won't go anywhere. This is cheap tape, so the screws won't just stay on their own, unfortunately. But it worked out. So now you can see at least one side of the inner workings of the thing. The fun part is that stupid power cord. It's, in my experience, it's been hard to put those back right away. It's definitely a good design, it's efficient, but it's a hassle. So when there's pressure there, you know, you can hit the buttons, but I'm gonna have to remove this thing. That blue sensor that I pointed to works the Z button, so the rest of the buttons are similar. So here I'm gonna wiggle the Z button off of this thing, and you don't have to do it forcefully, you just gotta kind of wiggle it out. And then, you know, I'm putting that one on the pile. Okay, cool. So now I can get a good look at it and see what it looks like inside without that piece there, and it looks pretty good. It's got a few scratches, but, you know, nothing bad overall. I have to take these two screws out. They're holding the joystick casing and the joystick itself. So I have to take them out. This is the little Z sensor. The chip there will say Z on it. So I thought that was cool that they made this assembly pretty foolproof. So I'm taking away what I'm calling the rubber contacts. I'm unsure what they're exactly called. And I'm just moving these guys up and a little bit over. Make my job easier. Take this silly thing out. And I tried to take it off, but I realized I missed the screw in showing you guys some of that stuff. So I took that screw off. There's the joystick. And now everything just comes out. So again, there's your memory pack, there's your R, there's your L, and you can see how these sensors work. Here you can see the same sort of pattern, you know, they've just labeled them left, right, up, down. It's hard because they all look the same, but there's A and B, and then those are your C buttons there. And L and R are those paddles on the right and the left, and then that thing in the middle is basically the brains of the operation, I believe anyway. So now I have to undo another screw because you can't open the joystick box or protector. But first I'm going to take out these rubber pieces. What's cool is they just go on pins, and again, they hold everything up. So I'm taking this one off its pins, and I stopped just to show you that you're just gonna lift it out, and that's that. Same thing with the rest of them, just pile them up. And now you can see the other end of those buttons. So I just take them out because they need to be cleaned. So there's your keys, and what's handy about the design is they're easy to put back together because of the way the keys are made. So here is the upper shell, I suppose we'll call it. And now I'm taking the rubber and I'm putting it into the to clean pile there. Now we still have to open this joystick casing, so what I'm going to do is undo that screw. And you can see there's crap coming out of it already. These things gather so much dust, it's nuts. So what I like to do is just blow into it. I'm unsure why dust is such a norm with all these things, especially the joystick because it's self-contained. But anyway, I'm not interested in taking all the joystick components apart. I'm just interested in cleaning them. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and I'm gonna just rub, essentially I'm just rubbing the housing. I think there's a big spring in there as well. And not only am I using a high alcohol content isopropyl alcohol, but I'm also going to let this sit for a little bit, so that way I can be sure that all the isopropyl alcohol is gone, because I don't want to trap any of the water, which the isopropyl alcohol is mixed, into this thing. Here I'm trying to just kind of rub out to make sure that those scratches are real scratches. And unfortunately it seems they are. So this is my first repaint job with scratches on plastic. So I'm gonna, do some research, but I have a feeling that all I need to do is just fill in the scratches with a material to even everything out, so that way they won't be scratches anymore, and then just paint over it. So now I have just another cleaner rag. I have a very unclean, well-used soap piece there, and I also have my Q-tips, and I also have a tub that will hold the N64 controller. Here I have some water, which is going to go in said tub, along with some soap, but I don't really use the soap in the tub. I use the soap directly on the thing, and then I wipe it off, and then I use the tub again. So this is essentially just rinsing it. I don't have enough water in there. I can't completely cover the thing, so I'm adding more, and I'm just bathing it again. So at this point I'm starting to notice that just the water has affected that little deface there. So I'm going to take some soap and put it on a Q-tip, and I'm going to fairly aggressively rub said affected area. Now this soap is basically a mild dish soap, so it's meant to get grease out of stuff, and it's helpful in multiple situations actually. So now I'm going to take that abrasive and I'm going to apply it to where somebody defaced this, presumably in ink, who knows. And I'm rubbing it with basically a medium force, not enough to break it, but enough to agitate it. And then here I'm using a polishing cloth of sorts to wipe away the soap, and again using some force there. And look at that, it's completely gone. So that means that the seller could have just done this. They didn't have to take the controller apart or anything. They could have just applied some soap to that affected area and done what I just did. You can see that it would have left the keys and other areas dry. So yeah, that's what upset me about this. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to try the same thing on what I think are scratches. I have to be a little bit meticulous anyway because I'm painting it later. So I also tried to clean up the Nintendo logo there, and I do it a little bit more later, which you'll see. So just bathing it again, making sure that everything is straight inside of it. And you really don't want to miss any dust or anything. There I also pointed out the scratches. So here's the bottom end of the controller, and like I said, it looks fine. There's a few minor dings to it, but the major thing that somebody's going to look at is the top, so that's what I'm more concerned with. Here I'm just applying the same method to the screw holes. And you can see they were pretty dirty. I'm also going through and thoroughly getting into that port where the controller pack goes, which is basically extra memory for the system. Same thing, just using a polishing cloth. And now that I've done this, the water has a higher soap content, of course. And I did that for a reason, because I'm gonna do the keys next. Or maybe I should call them buttons, whichever. So now I'm discovering a little bit of dust on these parts. So there's just like some grime buildup around those circles. So I'm just going to use a Q-tip to get into those crevices. And I would do that with any rubber part, as well as any key. Nails work great well too. Fingernails, that is. So I'm not trying to say that the Amazon seller could have made it look this good without bathing it, but could have been better, that's for sure. So here I'm just using my nail to get into those crevices, and you can see I cleaned up the Nintendo logo there. And these keys, I mean, they weren't really that dirty in the first place. And then my cat, Mr. Musa, decided to show up and help me. So stay tuned, there's going to be a lot more of these videos because I'm going through every process of refurbing this with you. And next is going to be my painting stage. Thanks for watching.